Hello and welcome to this results presentation from PYX Resources. I'm Sarah Lowther, and on behalf of myself and Focus IR, I'm delighted that we are joined by the Executive Chairman, Oliver Hasler, who's going to talk us through this half-year results for the period that ended at the end of June. Very warm welcome, Oliver, and thank you very much, and I'm handing over to you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Good to see you like always. Good morning, everyone in Europe. Good afternoon to our Asian investors. Thank you very much for joining us today. With me here today, we have Queenie Sang, our Senior Financial Controller of our group, together with our Investor Relations. I am very pleased to welcome you all to this PYX Resources Ltd investor call of our half-year results presentation for the period ending 30th of June 2024. During today's presentation, I will be giving you an overview of the key highlights from our 2024 half-year results and a summary of where we stand on our strategy. I will assume everybody read the disclaimer on page 2 of this presentation. The first half of 2024 has been a very successful one for PYX. We have delivered strong mineral sands sales volumes growth, and most important, a first-time positive EBITDA. And this just 4 years after the initial IPO. All this on the back of solid business fundamentals. We finished June with no debt, global investor support, strong demand for our growing product suite, and most important, a safe workplace record. We're particularly pleased that we have been successful in adding the highly sought-after commodity of ilmenite to our product portfolio. Our strategy of having global customer base paid off. With the actual economic turmoil, we continued to sell all of our production in the first half of this year, particularly to China and India. We are very proud of our safety and environmental record, and sustainability remains a major focus of our operations. We look forward to delivering further strong growth for the rest of 2024, and we want to thank our highly valued shareholders, workers, and operating communities for their ongoing support. Going over to page 3, as most of you already know, PYX Resources is a mineral sands mining company with a very large resource. PYX is the third largest producing mineral sands company based on zircon resources. We're listed in Australia since February 2020 and on the main board of the London Stock Exchange since November 2021. We are in production and have been producing premium zircon since 2015. Not only do we have a very large resource, we're also known for our superior quality. On one side, we have a very high assemblage value. This is the result of a very high concentration of zircon. Most of the mineral sands mining companies in the world are ilmenite mines with byproducts of zircon and rutile. We have a zircon deposit with byproducts of rutile and ilmenite. This results in a very high assemblage value, which is at the end the margin, an additional margin we get from nature or the nature of our deposit. Also, Kalimantan sands are sought after for their high quality. They're known for their very white zircon, their low radioactivity content, and low alumina. This makes them ideal for high-tech applications such as semiconductors, batteries for electric vehicles, solar cells, etc. Also, our project is a low capex project. Palangkaraya, where we have our offices, is the capital city of Central Kalimantan. It was also a candidate of becoming the new capital city of Indonesia. As a result of that, we have an airport, hospitals, hotels. We have a government paved road all the way from the capital city to our factory and to our mine. We also have deep sea ports from where we export our products from. which are Banjarmasin and Sampit, which today are also being used for high-volume exports such as iron ore, palm oil, and coal. So usually in all of these type of projects, logistics capex is a lion's share of the capex, which is an investment we did not have to do. Timing for a project was ideal. First, because there's not enough supply for the growing demand. There were trade tensions between Australia and China, Australia being the biggest producer, China the biggest country for the demand. We are in a Belt and Road country. Indonesia is actually the largest Belt and Road country, and with that a strategic partner of China. Chinese know Kalimantan and like buying Indonesian products. Also, several governments from developing countries, including Australia, the European Union, the United States, and China, have declared zircon, ilmenite, and rutile as critical minerals required towards the transition to carbon zero. We also make sure that we operate under international standards, building our operations on a sustainable platform and investing within the communities in which we operate. As a result of this, the market and our growth project, the first half of 2024 finished with a positive EBITDA. This is even more admirable if we consider that for the 4 years since we did our original IPO in Australia, 2 of them were COVID years. On page 4, we will see our financial summary. As you can see, the first half of 2024 represents a pivotal financial achievement for our company, as we have attained a positive EBITDA for the first time since our listing. This success highlights the impact of our strategic initiatives and operational efficiencies. Our EBITDA for the period reached $23,000, a significant turnaround from the negative $9.8 million recorded during the same period last year. Even more encouraging is the performance of our underlying EBITDA, which has risen by over 47% to $732,000 compared to $131,000 in the first half of 2023. This substantial improvement reflects the results of our efforts to optimize production and control cost, positioning PYX for sustainable profitability moving forward. All this brought us to a 99% reduction in net loss after tax, ending this half at $136,000 compared to a loss of almost $10 million for the same period last year. Furthermore, PYX continues to maintain a robust balance sheet and remains debt-free. We closed the period with a solid cash position of $7.6 million. This is a result of an increase in net cash used in operating working capital of $1.2 million, $700,000 investment in capex, and a positive $1.7 million as a result of financial activities, mainly showing the strong support from our shareholders. On page 5, you will see our operational summary. We're happy to report a 28% reduction in cash cost of production. We also had an 84% increase in total mineral sands sold. We were granted 2 operational and budget licenses, one for 2 years for our deposit Mandiri and one for 3 years for our deposit in Tisma. We started to export our ilmenite for the first time in March this year. Also, a project we have been talking very long about was connecting the mineral sands factory to the electrical grid. So now we no longer use fuel, we're using government electricity, which not only reduces our costs by 80%, but it also gives us a much cleaner, sustainable solution, reducing the carbon emissions. Also in this line, we received the Gold Environmental, Social and Governance Excellence Reward from the Zircon Industry Association. On page 6, you will see our finances. Operationally, during May and June, we suffered under very heavy rain and the collapse of a bridge which provided access to our mine, impacting our operations during this period with a 20% reduction in the production of zircon and 16% reduction in the total mineral sands. zircon, rutile, and ilmenites produced. Despite of this, we were able to sell almost everything we produced, resulting in an 84% increase in total mineral sands sold. A great achievement, which validates our decision to diversify our client base. In March, we were thrilled to announce the first export of ilmenite to a customer in Changjiang, China, following the award of the modified license for export ilmenite, which we announced on March 12th this year. We finished the first half of this year with an inventory of just over 1,000 tons of premium zircon, almost 6,000 tons of ilmenite, and 352 tons of rutile. Several operational advancements and strategic milestones were achieved in the first 6 months of 2024. Perhaps the most significant in terms of long-term cost benefits was the successful connection to the mineral separation plant to electrical grid, as mentioned before. On page 7, you will see the two images of our deposits. On the top, you will see Mandiri's mineral separation plant, which has a capacity of 24,000 tons per annum, is producing and exporting premium zircon since 2015. All of our products are processed materials, so we export premium. All of our zircon is premium zircon with a content of over 65.5 grade. Tisma is our second resource, which we acquired in February 2021. It is not in production yet, but represents a huge potential to expand our mining production. On page 8, you will see our location within central Kalimantan. So Kalimantan is the Indonesian part of the island of Borneo, which we share with Brunei and Malaysia. 70% of the island is Kalimantan, and we're in the province of central Kalimantan. And on the bottom side, you will see Palangkaraya, which is the capital city. So we go north into our mineral separation plant, and then a little bit northwest into our mine, while Tisma is northwest from there, and the two ports I mentioned in the south. Very important on the left chart is our assemblage value. You see we have a much higher content of zircon, and on the bottom you will see the port of Banjarmasin, which allows us to make our exports from Banjarmasin via Jakarta to the rest of the world. On page 9, you will see a very important slide on the left, which compares our deposits to the other listed companies ones. You will see that Mandiri has a zircon concentration of 4.8%, while Tisma has 1.3%, which is by far a very high concentration compared to our peers. The effect that this has is a very high assemblage value. So every time we take a ton out of the deposit, it has a higher margin because zircon has the higher price of all these materials. On page 10, you will see the price, historic prices from premium zircon and also the outlook. Even though premium zircon is a commodity and fluctuates going up and down like every commodity, you will see that over the last 15 years, zircon has a continuous price increase, even if we go through the commodity supercycle in 2012. And the outlook is for it to continue doing so as the major mines in the world are reaching the end of their mine life. And a lot of even if you consider all new mines and believe that they will start in the time and the volumes they were announced, it would be not enough to compensate for this lack of productivity. So I'm very bullish about the future of zircon pricing. On page 11, you will see a summary of our historic performance. As I mentioned in all these calls, our main priority is to focus on the operation, increasing our volumes, reducing our production cost, and starting the production and sales of our byproducts, ilmenite and rutile. We're just missing the license for rutile, which I expect to have very soon. But historically, you can see that we have been constantly growing our zircon sales. We have been growing our zircon revenues. We have been growing our EBITDA, underlying EBITDA, and we have been growing our cash. So most of our indicators have had a constant positive CAGR. So in conclusion, on page 12, we have good results driven on strong market fundamentals looking forward. Our project seeks to grow the supply of our material as demand will grow once the world comes out of this economic turmoil. There is limited competition. The main 5 players in the market represent 73% of the supply, which creates a very disciplined market. We have taken all the necessary steps to increase our demand, and we're targeting to be able to increase our production on the second half as we have done year after year. So I'm very confident that we will continue improving our results, even in this very difficult and challenging time. And we had our own challenges locally, as I mentioned, with heavy rain and the collapse of a bridge. But thanks to the strong investor support, we believe that we have a very interesting project for the long-term future. Thank you very much. And with this, I'm happy to open to questions.
Many thanks, Oliver. And I've got plenty of questions for you because so much has been achieved in this results period and in the face of adversity where the weather's concerned. But the company's first positive EBITDA since listing, is this likely to remain the case from now on where your EBITDA positivity is concerned?
It is for sure the goal of management is to be increasing the EBITDA, and we should be increasing year after year. So that's truly what the entire management and the entire team is working for.
Okay, but from what you've said, it sounds as though the biggest challenge is something that you have no control over. Is the biggest challenge to the company the weather and those heavy rains with climate change? This might be something that becomes the norm.
I don't think so. I mean, this is we have been operating the mine since 2020, and it's the first time that we have such a delicate situation. So we had very heavy rains, we had the collapse of a bridge, but we haven't had those type of problems before. So I hope that this is something that's happening at this moment in time and that we will be able to surpass in the coming months.
Okay, now Mandiri has been in production since 2015. So what's the shelf life like for both deposits in terms of producing years?
It sounds like a simple question, not that easy to answer, because it depends which number you want to utilize as far as the yearly production. We have said that our capacity goal is to reach 48,000 tons in Mandiri. So if you look at our York report, we have 6 million tons of zircon resources, and if you divide that by 48,000 tons, you have 125 years of deposit life. So it really depends what you use as your yearly volumes. Tisma is not in production yet, but has inferred resources for 4.5 million tons. So again, if we assume that once we put it in production that our goal will be 48,000 tons, it would be around 93 years. So it's very, very long. It's a very large deposit, so we have a very long life.
Now, you've said that there is a demand deficit in zircon. So where are you searching for fresh deposits? Where is the growth going to come from for PYX Resources?
At this moment in time, and I've always said that the most important thing is focus. So we have an important project now in Central Kalimantan. For the first time, we reached a black EBITDA. So I think everybody now should focus on the results of this deposit in particular. As a result of that, we're only looking in Kalimantan for other strategic deposits. I don't think it's the time to, one day perhaps we would look at projects around the world, but today I want to make sure that the entire team is focusing in this area where we're operating today.
Okay, but allow me to ask about ilmenite, because how important is ilmenite going to become in the portfolio? Because you've mentioned it 4 times within the presentation.
Well, I wasn't counting, but we've always said the main product is zircon. Our main focus is zircon, and the highest concentration is zircon. Ilmenite was just very important this year because strategically we said we want to get the byproducts ilmenite and rutile in the market. We fought very hardly for years lobbying the change of regulation in Jakarta, which happened last year as we announced, and now we're exporting it. So we're very, very happy that it finally happened. We finished last year with 10,000 tons of ilmenite. We had absorbed most of the cost in zircon, so this adds a lot of margin to this year. So ilmenite is strategically important for this year, but going forward, zircon will always remain our main product.
Understood. Now, PYX is allowed to export up to 80% of its mineral production. Is the rest by law for local consumption, or is it going to be hoarded until it's required locally?
I think there's a confusion of the licenses we announced this year. What we announced this year was just something that's a routine license. Every year you have to seek from the government a budgeting and operation license. So just based on the results of the previous year, they give you a license, which usually increase from what you had the previous year, for the production and this year. So it's not the deposits license, which usually lasts 5 to 10 years. So we received from Mandiri a license, the operating and budgeting license for 2 years, and for Tisma for 3. And the number 80% just states that in Mandiri we can sell or export 38,000 tons, which is much more than we have been doing. So it's plenty. And if we needed more, we can request the next license. And 24,000 tons in Tisma. So 80% of the license we can export, but we're not forced to sell locally. We can, but we're not forced to. Locally, we can sell whatever we want, but for exports, we cannot exceed this. And in the moment we would apply for another license, and this can be changed according to the regulation.
Okay,
we have done that before.
Okay, Oliver, just a couple more questions, if I may, because I can see that you've reduced the cash cost of production by 28%. Are there any plans to reduce the cash cost further, or are operations as lean as they can be?
There's always nobody in any type of industry could tell you that they're as lean as they can be. We always seek for more improvements, but there's two main axes to improve this even further. One, all the beautiful things in industry come from volume. So as we grow in scale, we should be able to reduce our cost dramatically. And the other one is a project we have been looking for, is to substitute our third-party local miners by contract miners to our own mineral field units. So that's still a project we're looking at, which would allow us to drastically reduce our costs.
So, of course, what you and I are talking about are mainly retrospective. We're now well into the second half. So what will define the second half of the year for PYX Resources?
But what I just mentioned, the most important thing is volume. So the pressure we put on the teams is to continue to increasing our zircon production, which is a very important indicator. And then we want to sell all of the inventory we have for ilmenite and hopefully also the rutile this year.
Lovely. Oliver Hasler, Executive Chairman of PYX Resources, thank you very much for your time, because it has indeed been a very busy time for you so far this year. Thank you.